Thank you again, music team, for an amazing worship session. All right. Good morning, everyone. Morning. This side is awake. What about you guys? Good morning. Yeah. All right. I can see Brother Edward there. Edward, alive. That's the energy. I like it. All right. How's everybody else doing? Good? Great. Okay. I like that attitude. I like that energy. Okay, I know that this is the typical Seattle weather, but let you know a little bit of a secret. This is a perfect weather for a very good reason. You know, Seattle weather will keep you young. Because of all the rain, it will wash away all the impurities in the air. So you're always breathing fresh air. Who needs LA weather? Amen? Who needs LA sun? Because this kind of weather is the thing that will prevent UV from burning you. So the little secret is if you want to stay young, stay in Seattle. All right? Okay, so this morning, I'm going to continue on the sermon series that Pastor Owen kicked off last week. It's called Under Pressure, When Under Pressure. Okay? And I don't know about you, but we all know what it is feel like being under pressure. You know, sometimes when you're sleeping at night and you wake with a cold sweat, thinking that, oh man, you're dreaming you had this dream. How many of you have this dream that you just had an exam that you're completely unprepared of, that you didn't know? And you just had the dream. And a lot of times in my dream is that I woke up with cold sweats, thinking this is the final exam that is super important, and I didn't study, and I didn't know about the exam. How many of you can relate? And if you're a public speaker and if you're a preacher in this case, I want to know if I'm crazy. Pastor Erwan, tell me. But sometimes I had this crazy, scary dreams that I forgot that I'm supposed to preach. And he just told me that when I arrived to church, Ming, you're supposed to preach. And I had this panic attack on top of the pulpit. I don't know if I'm crazy. That's true. It's happening to me right now. Just crazy. Just kidding. But we all know what it feels like being under pressure. Like a lot of stake is sitting on your shoulder, and there's a very marginal room to make an error. And whatever that you decide sometimes can make you or break you, right? And what do we feel often when we're in that kind of situation? If you're like me at all, like a lot of times I just want to flee. I just want to run away. I just want to make a new path in my life and get away out of that pressure as soon as possible. But how many of you know that pressure is actually good for you? It is going to be able to build you if you respond to that pressure correctly. But a lot of times in our lives, we just want to take the easy way out. We just want to make our own way, our own path that sometimes will dig us into a deeper trouble. How many of you know what I'm talking about here? Okay? I'm a person that get bored a lot, and I'm pretty destructive. And these days, right, to channel my boredom, I'd like to go for adventure. I'd like going camping and doing some other stuff. Not too long ago, a couple months ago, you can show the picture. This is the first time that we decided that we're going to go car camping, truck camping, and we're going to go into a remote place in the mountains. But before we're going to this place, we already know that there are rivers that you gotta cross using a truck. Using this camper van, you had to cross that river, okay? And to me, it's super sketchy, it's super scary because it's our first time. I never drove through a water before. Maybe for those of us who drove in Indonesia, what's the big deal, right? Every winter season, every rainy season, you will go through this kind of thing. Yeah, right? Yeah. But for me, it's my first time, and I learned a lot. I did a lot of research. I watched a lot of YouTube, and it told me, like, okay, before you cross the river, make sure, right? Number one is that it's not too deep. Well, what is not too deep? Very vague. Oh, you gotta go down from the car, and you gotta test the water. Walk into the water, and that's exactly what I did. Maybe you cannot see there, but it is about my knee deep there. And I know that that's only like 2-3 steps down the river. It's already like knee deep. And starts getting sketchy because not only that it's pretty deep, right, nearby the edges, I can also feel like the water is pushing me pretty strong, and I was about to fall. That I turned around, like, okay, it's not worth for me to test this any further. It is pretty sketchy. And then after that, I decided that, okay, if that's the case, maybe I go around and find my own path. But thankfully enough, I bring my wonderful wife here, right? That is not afraid of asking for direction when we're lost. I like to make my own path in my life. And she called the ranger. No. Let's call the ranger before we do anything. She called the ranger that is not stationed nearby the river. We're completely alone by the river. Okay, she called the ranger, and the ranger told us, no, don't make your own path. Because that's how people got stuck and people died. Oops. Turn around and go exactly into that path. I went through that path 5 times today. That's what the ranger said. And we did. And you can see like that's when we crossed the river. I gotta tell you, that's the scariest 15 seconds of my life so far. Scariest ever. Because the moment that we got in, right, it gets deeper and deeper, and the water gets to the window, and then after that we got stuck. And the ranger was with us all the way on the phone and telling us, it's okay, just keep on going. We're stuck, it's okay, just back down and back up again. And 15 seconds later, we're out on the other side. Talking about under pressure, right? How many of you can relate? When you're under pressure, you tend to want to find your own path. You just want to find your own shortcut. You just want to define what is the best path that you can take. But a lot of times when we're just finding our own path, that is how we got stuck. That is how we got in trouble. And that is the reason why we got to find who is our ranger, who is the one that knows more about the life that we live in, and find the direction from him, the author and the finisher of our faith. Amen? So, when being under pressure, always remember that we gotta be prepared, and we always gotta be in touch with the rangers in our lives. That is Jesus that is gonna give us the direction, that is gonna give us the compass, that is gonna give us the knowledge, the know-how, the confidence to cross the crazy river of life. Amen? All right, let's go to the next slide. I want to talk about today about equipping us to be able to withstand pressure that happens in life. How to prepare, how to be ready to handle any pressure that happens in our lives. Back in the earliest 20th century, all of you have heard about the Wright brothers, right? Have you heard about the Wright brothers? The inventor of the airplanes. But one person that you don't really know a lot, never really mentioned that often, was Samuel Langley. And if you gotta compare the Wright brothers, right, with Samuel Langley, if I have to bet my money on who's gonna invent, right, the first airplane, the first working airplane, I would bet everything that I got on Samuel Langley. Because he has so much credibility in his life, right? He's a very famous professor, Pittsburgh University. That's where he teach. He's a professor of astronomy and physics. He knows a lot. Very smart guy. And not only that, he also invented the first unmanned flying drone using an engine. So that drone was able to fly about 1 kilometer. That's a breakthrough in his life. Okay? And then he got a lot of dough, he got a lot of money, he got a lot of backing. And the US military finally decided that, hey, why don't you develop an airplane for us, because that is going to provide us with a lot of advantage. I would bet everything that I got on this guy. But in 1903, he decided to give up after a couple of failed trials. The first one fell into the river shortly after launch. The second one, same thing. And people start to ridicule him, and he decided, it's not worth it, let me quit. And in 1903, the Wright brothers, people who doesn't have the education, people who didn't have the money, they're basically bike shop owners. But they are driven with this passion of understanding why. They're driven by this passion of wanting to put the first person on the air, flying. There is a big difference between Langley and the Wright brothers. That is, one is doing it because of the job and the other is doing it because of the passion that they have in their hearts. Passion, the heart, your why is going to be the thing that will sustain you. Don't let your following after God just be another job, just be another duty in your life. If you want to last under pressure, you got to know your why. Because, go to the next slide. There's this very catchy slogan that is being said. You lose your way when you lose your why. How many of us, we have our why with us? How many of us know our why? Right? A lot of times we don't have the why, we don't have the reason to stay under pressure, and that's why we crumble. That's why we run away. That's why we are like Langley, that we see like difficult times comes, criticism comes, we just give up. But the same pressure that is being put on the Wright brothers caused them not to give up, caused them to try harder, caused them to be more motivated to finally discover, to finally have a breakthrough. Right? Is it just a job for you, or do you have the why? And I feel like for our generation, a lot of times it's not just a problem that we forgot our why. For our generation, the problem is sometimes we are too nonchalant. You know, nonchalant. We just don't care. It seems to be cool by this generation. Like, yeah, I'm so cool. If I'm not too attached, don't be chalant, man. Just be nonchalant, right? That is the cool attitude. If you're too eager beaver, you're not cool. And that's what we want to be. But the problem with it is if we never put our care, if we never put our heart into anything, we will never get to be involved and we will never have our why. Okay, I want to take this point from the story of Moses. You can go to the next slide. How do we find our why? And finding is not just about searching when you lost something. Finding your why in here, I believe, is also about building. Because a lot of times right now when we're young, a lot of you are young. I know I'm not young anymore. But a lot of times, even including when it doesn't really matter about age, finding your why is not just about like you lost it, but it's sometimes about building it. It's something that is being put pieces by pieces. You probably don't have like a good, strong passion, a good, strong reason right now. But if you allow God to build it slowly, brick by brick in your life, you will have a solid why that will make you staying on course. Doesn't matter whatever kind of pressure that you have in your life. Yeah. There's a story in Exodus 2. And it's a very famous story about a baby boy named Moses. That he grew up saved out of all the babies that was born during his time out of the Hebrew nation. He's the only one that got saved because his mother put him inside of a basket and put him in the river. And Pharaoh's daughter happened to take a shower on that, take a bath on the river of Nile and saw that baby and took him in. He's the only one that could survive. And here's the continuation. After he grew up, after he got older, it was said that he was standing by the Nile, watching his people, the Hebrews, being tortured. He's watching over his people working over Egypt. And then he saw this. Moses saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. Looking this way and that and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. Now I think like there are a couple things that is important here. You can go to the next slide. That God built Moses why? Piece by piece. We know like the story ended up in failure to begin with. But one thing that stood out of me here is that he knows his identity. He's a Hebrew by birth. He remembers, he knows that is something that is by nature that who he is. And he decided that whatever privileges that he has right now is not going to take over his identity of he truly is. And a lot of times we as Christian, sometimes we have to remember that we are Christian first. By birth, we are being brought in to this world by God. We're children of God. And a lot of times in this world, the world will give you privilege, comfort, easy things, enjoyable things. And sometimes when we look at the suffering, and sometimes when we look at the values that we are born with getting skewed, right? What is our stance? Are we just gonna stand and think that that's no longer me, it doesn't matter to me? Or are we gonna be like Moses? Are you gonna take it by your own hands? I know that the story oftentimes is being spun as a negative thing that, he killed somebody. But I want to encourage us, this is not about the killing part. This is about getting involved. Moses, not only that he did something wrong, yes, he killed somebody. But he's involved. He acknowledged that these are my people. And the following day after that, he killed an Egyptian. He saw two Hebrews are fighting, and he came in to be a mediator. He is involved. He doesn't forget where he's born. He doesn't forget who he is. Have we? Right? And I think the key for us is don't forget that we're first the children of God. Don't forget that who we are. Right? God built Moses' wife brick by brick. Not only that he's born as a Hebrew, he's prince by the upbringing, and he's also a shepherd by experience. We all know the story that he ran away from here. Prince of Egypt with the best education, best that money can buy. He became a shepherd knowing how to take care of stupid sheeps. Back in the, I always get remembered, back in the camp when we were going that camping, I saw a bunch of sheeps, and sheeps are pretty stupid. There's a dog barking. The dog happens to be really big and white, fluffy, like a sheep. And all the sheeps that look at this dog are just rushing over to that dog. You're my friend? You're my friend? Okay? Anyways, going tangent. Sheeps are pretty stupid. And the point is that sometimes as a shepherd, you have to deal with stupidity of the sheeps, of the crowd. And that's exactly what God prepared Moses to do. But when it comes that on the burning bush where God encountered with Moses back, God gave Moses back the calling. And he got a response saying okay, I'm going to go for you. And the same situation for all of us, God is going to prepare you. God is sending you here to the United States. Not a lot of people can call this place home. Not a lot of people have this privilege. I know there's a lot of hardship that is going on right now, with H1B and everything. I got it. It's difficult. But think about all the privilege that you have today. You are educated in a place that is best, one of the best places to get educated. You're living in one of the best places, the richest country, the richest nation. There's a lot of things that is so privileges here that we often treat it as a poo-poo, U.S. bad, U.S. bad. No, I'm telling you, what we have here is awesome. Be thankful, embrace it, and let God mold you and shape you. And when He called for you, all right, that's going to be your why. That's going to be your anchor. That's going to be the thing that keeps you steady. Okay? I had this chat with the founder of Dr. Share. Okay? And I can chat with him anytime because we're this close. We're this close. He's basically my dad, okay? And one of the cool thing that I learned out of him, right, is he keeps on telling me, just like any parents always telling the children, this is how our lives was when you're little, before you were born. This is how we had to fight for future and stuff. And one of the story that really inspires me is really the story about how he grew up and how he ended up creating this floating hospital. The story that how he grew up is really fascinating because it's really like rags and zero to success kind of story. He started off from being a very poor family. His dad died, so my grandpa died when he was 10 years old, so just a little kid. And the mom didn't have a lot in their lives, and basically they gotta go wash dishes, clean up houses and such to survive. And he always has this dream, even as a kid, which I am so jealous of because I still don't know, right, until today, or when I grew up, what do I want to grow up as? He always knew. He always knew when he was a kid that he wanted to be a doctor and he wanted to help people. He always knew that. But people always make a joke out of him. People always belittle him like, who's going to pay for your tuition? Who's going to pay for your school? You cannot even afford shoes. You're walking to school without shoes. That's what he keeps on reminding me. That's where we came from. And the word of his mother that keep on being repeated into his life is this. In English, it says, Lee, if you ever become a doctor, do not squeeze the poor. Because they will pay you whatever that you ask. But they will go home crying because they cannot afford to buy rice. Every single time. That is the thing that is being said to him. So, cut the story short, all the adventure, he became a doctor, miracles, because God opened a door when he doesn't have tuition. Germany suddenly declare like, hey, free university. And great, because we Asian, when there's a story of free, from one corner to the other, we will always hear it. How many of you know that that's true? My ears is so tuned. If somebody said free, I know I hear. Same thing with this, like apparently like father, like son. He went to Germany as a doctor because like happened, they make it free, becoming a doctor, becoming successful, climbing, etc., etc., etc. But in 2005, he got this call, right? When he was doing some free education over in East Indonesia, there's this little girl that came with an almost ruptured intestine. And it took them 3 days and 2 nights by a small little boat to reach the free medical facility. And during that time, when he saw that little girl, it reminded him of his childhood when they didn't have anything at all. And the word of the mother came back. Lee, if one day you become a doctor, do not squeeze the poor because they will pay you whatever, but they will go home crying because they didn't have any money to buy rice. And as a doctor there, like, I don't know, maybe in front of a people or not, he just wept, crying, like, I cannot imagine how the heart is broken during that time. And he also heard the voice of God through a scripture telling him about the story of the boy with the 2 loaves and the 5 bread. And God is asking him, who's going to go for me? And that was the moment that he decided that I am going to go. I'm going to remember I know my why. I know my why. I know my why. Have you let God build your why in your life? Have you let God build your why in your life? The reason why you exist, the reason why you have to handle pressure, the reason why you want to handle and stay strong under pressure. Because it's a process, it's a forging, it's not a one kind of thing. But it's a process where God builds brick by brick in your life. But we will not have our why if we remain nonchalant in our life, if we don't let ourselves get involved by things around us, if we don't embrace the pain around us, if we don't try. God is not going to be able to break our hearts if there's nothing that our hearts is being attached to, if we don't let our hearts mold together with His. Do you have your why? Do you let God build your why today? And I want to encourage for every single one of us who are new in this place, get involved It's okay. Maybe we will be like Moses. We're making mistakes here and there. But as you invest your heart, as you invest your life in it, you will find, you will build your why you exist. Let's go to the next slide here. Your success, I believe it's not just being able to handle pressure. I believe it's not just a one-man story. And a lot of times when we're under pressure, we like to be alone. We like just to seclude everyone. You don't have to know about my problem. You don't have to know about my pressure. Everything is okay. I want to appear as if I have all the answer. You know what I'm talking about? You can go to the next slide. I kind of messed this thing up together. Nope. It's a movie poster. Right. How many of you have watched this? Right? Millennial, Gen X, Boomers. We watched this. Gen Z, you probably don't know this, but you probably don't know the song. Bum bum, bum bum, bum 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 bum. Yeah, exactly. That's right. We all know this poster. We all know about this movie, Jaws. It was a very famous movie. But did you know this movie started off from being a catastrophe, from being a failure? They tried to make a shark horror movie. And if it's a shark horror movie, guess who's the main attraction here? Who's the main character? The shark, right? But if you watch this movie, you will find out that in the first 2/3 of the movie, there's no shark at all. They never show you the shark. And there's a very good reason behind it. It's because when they come up with a mechanical shark that they want to make as the main character, it's always broken. It's always broken. Never works. Like a failed demo, the moment that they're ready to shoot, it's broken. And Steven Spielberg, back then the director, finally mustered the courage and came to his crew, all the talented people, and said that, Bruce the shark, that's what they call it, Bruce the shark. It's always broken, and there's no way that we're going to finish this movie on time. There's a lot of money that's been invested, and we're behind the schedule. We completely don't know what we need to do. Because the shark is broken all the time, what are we going to do? And they all get together with their background and with all their skill. The editor said, that's actually good. What I want to do is that we want to show less shark in the movie. The less shark that you put, the more intense it will become. Okay, makes sense. The cinematographer also had a very good idea. That's a very good idea. Not only that we're not going to show the shark, not only that we're going to hide the shark, we're going to make the shark as our point of view. So instead of showing the shark, we're going to show the person swimming about getting attacked by the shark. Oh, very clever. Like a first-person shooter game, like the perspective of the shark. Great. And the composer, this is the brilliant guy, said, yeah. And to make sure that people are aware that there's a shark, I'm gonna compose a very, very cool song that is made out of 2 notes. Bum bum, bum bum, bum 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 bum. It's the entire music. Basically, it's a repetition of those 2 notes. But the effect is that they won a lot of awards. And until today, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, those of you who never watched this, you know about this. Thank you to the team. Because instead of pushing everybody aside, right, they decided that I am going to share my pressure with a team. And the reason why I'm telling you this is that because naturally when I'm under pressure, when you're under pressure, a lot of times we'd like to stay alone. We'd like to keep our problem on our own, But I want to encourage us. Open up your life. Have people that you can trust in your life. People who know that are rooting for you. People who you respect. And have humility to be able to take their wisdom in your life. There's a story again back in the Bible. Same thing. Moses, instead of being overwhelmed and alone, he learned how to trust and delegate because he surrounded himself instead of being alone. Inside of the Bible, okay, Next, there's the story in Exodus 18, verse 14 until 20. And this is just one of the many examples of how you will find that Moses was never alone in his journey. But I love this story because there's something concrete. There's a concrete, actionable item that he got to do. And he took this not out of a Hebrew. He took this out of a person that's supposed to be a Gentile. It just so happened that this Gentile is his father-in-law. You know, after all his success leading the Israel out, after all his bragging rights of being saying that I did this, I've done this, I know more. One day, his father-in-law saw that all that Moses was doing for the people, which is a lot, and he said, after Moses tried to listen to every single problem of the sheep, Moses tried to judge everybody, Moses trying to tell everybody from morning till evening. The father-in-law just observed and know and internalize, and finally he said this to Moses. What is this you're doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge while all the people stand around you from morning till evening? Moses answered him, because the people come to seek to me to seek God's will. Whenever they had a dispute, it is brought to me, and I decide between the parties and inform of them God's decrees and instruction. And this is what I love, and I think this is what you got to do in your life. Surround your people with this kind of people, that people who dare to speak the truth in love into your life. This is what Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, said. Next. Is it not there? Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, saying, what you are doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourself out. The work is too heavy for you, and you cannot handle it alone. He didn't beat behind the bush. He gave it to Moses as is. And a lot of times, you know, instead of loving and circling ourselves with these kind of people who are dare to speak the truth in our life, we often push them aside because they speak things that our ego, our pride are not able to handle. Listen to me, and I will give you some advice. And may God be with you. You must be people's representative before God and bring their disputes to Him. Teach Him His decrees and instruction, and show them the way they are to live and how they are to behave. And if you continue this on, you will find out that He laid out a very systematic structure. Then I need you to pick 10 people underneath you, and underneath them, I need you to pick another 10 people, so it becomes like a tree. The decision doesn't have to all the time go to you, but you need to be able to educate. You need to be able to transfer your skills to those people, your values to those people. Only the most difficult one will come to you. Then you will become an effective leader. That is really concrete kind of example. That is a very loving and a straightforward example. Moses, what you're doing is bad. It's wrong. I don't know what kind of language that he's saying. But he definitely told Moses in love, without beating the bush, in truthfulness. He didn't withhold it. What about if I offend Moses? What if I hurt Moses' feelings? What about if I'm wrong? Hey, this church, there's plenty of good people who has a lot of experience, who are willing to tell you the truth. But we gotta have the humility and openness to be able to share our pressure with one another. So for those of you who are new, I want to encourage you, get plugged in. Get to know people around here. Get to know Pastor Erwan, super nice guy, right? Used to be mafia, used to be gangster. That's what he liked to say. I don't believe him because he's way too nice. All right? You will find a lot of people here. Ko Yu Hong, a lot of experience too. Martin, looks scary, look big, but very nice guy. So I want to encourage you, get plugged in, get to know people around you, okay? The problem that you're facing is not unique. You're not alone. Maybe your story will be like the story of Jaws, where you're just fascinated, like, I want to show the shark. But really, your masterpiece is going to come out of togetherness, that you're going to come with a big masterpiece that is God's plan in your life. Amen. Let me close with this. Building your why, right, and surrounding yourself doesn't mean anything if you don't ultimately go back to the land of Egypt and face your Pharaoh. Nothing is going to change until you deal with your stronghold, until you deal with the root of your pressure. And you got to be like Moses, that when God is saying, like, go back, you got to be willing to go back and face your Pharaoh. And I'm telling you this because this is super an important part in your life. A lot of times I ask God, that's not the most efficient way of freeing the Israel, God. Why do you free the Israel by confronting directly head to head? If I were you, I will go like a ninja late night in the dark. I will just suddenly come and snatch the people out. Surprise attack. And I believe that God did this for a reason. That when you're just trying to escape from your problem, when you're just trying to ignore your problem, yes, the pressure might go away, but you will keep that identity together with you, that you have not really conquered your Egypt, that you are not really a free people, that you are not really victorious. Imagine if Israel back then, they only escaped, and if they only got away from Egypt through some sketchy way, they will not know that they are victorious. They will not know that there is a God behind them that is able to free, to break, to destroy every single problem that they have in their lives. What kind of identity do you want to have? If you want to have a victorious identity in your life, it's time for us to sometimes face our giants. Because only then will you experience a transfer of confidence, a transfer of knowledge that your God is bigger than anyone. We often read the story about the 10 plague that happened in Egypt, just like a miracle story. But I'm telling you, this is more than just miracle. It's more than magic story, a magic showdown. You can do this magic, I can do this magic. You can do this magic, I can do this magic. It's more than that. To them, the way that they live in Egypt, every single thing that happened, they believe that there's a God, there's a stronghold that controls, that watch and holds you. That there's no way that you can be free out of Egypt, because all those gods are watching and persecuting and holding you in bondage. But every single time that God came to Egypt, He destroys the mindset that your God, the deities of Egypt, has no power over your life. The Nile, the God of Nile, Happy, the God of the river that gives lives, I made them bleed. God turns the Nile River into blood. And when they saw that, they see that that God just made my God bleed. When the God of sun, the giver of warmth, the giver, the grower of things, and God said that I am going to destroy the sun. For days there's no sun over in Egypt. The mindset suddenly shifts. Maybe this God is bigger. And ultimately, the God of life, Osiris, where they believe that Pharaoh is a descendant of Osiris. And the son of Pharaoh, all the firstborn are the gift of Osiris. And God destroyed the firstborn. It's a showdown. It's a showdown that any stronghold, any pressure, anything that you deem impossible in your life is possible with God. That puts on a new identity over the Israelites. I'm not a slave. I'm not just getting lucky. I'm not just an escape artist. But I know the one that is behind me. I know the one that is with me. He's going to sustain me through every pressure, through every problem that I have in my life. And if I press on and I walk with Him step by step, face my one giant at a time, I will conquer my Pharaoh. I will go out of this land as a victorious son of God. And that is the legacy that God is trying to write in your lives. That is the story that God is trying to write in all of us. So when we're being under pressure, just know that it is a privilege that God is trying to build something amazing in us. Let's all stand up.